it, as if Stacy was the problem, as if the truth wasn't real unless he allowed it to be. Then the threats became sharper. If you tell anyone, no one will believe you. Who do you think they'll trust? A little girl or me, the loving uncle who has been taking care of you? She didn't know how to argue against that. He was right. Everyone loved him. He was the uncle who bought children's sweets after church, the man who always helped carry groceries for the old women in the community, the one who spoke with kindness and laughter. And she was just a child, a quiet child, a grieving child. Who would listen to her? But when he sensed that words alone weren't enough to keep her quiet, he became crueler. One evening, as she sat in the living room, staring blankly at her untouched plate of food, Leonard leaned down beside her, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "If you ever tell anyone," he murmured, his fingers tightening around her wrist, "I will make sure something bad happens to you, to your father." Her breath hitched. Her father. It wasn't a direct threat, but it didn't need to be. She imagined it immediately. Something terrible happening to Pastor Michael. Something irreversible. All because she had opened her mouth. And Leonard knew. He saw the flicker of fear in her eyes, and he smiled, patting her cheek as if he had just given her a gentle lesson. "That's a good girl," he said. "Now eat your food." She tried. She forced down every bite, chewing mechanically, her hands shaking under the table. From that night on, she didn't try to tell anyone again. Whenever she saw an opportunity, when a teacher asked her why she had become so quiet, when a church member noticed how tired she always looked, when a friend asked if she was okay, the words would rise in her throat, desperate to escape. But then she would hear Leonard's voice in her head. "Something bad will happen," and she would swallow the words back down. She became a prisoner in her own silence. She learned how to hide her pain. She forced herself to smile when Leonard was around others, knowing that if she didn't, he would make her regret it later. She became quieter, her once bubbly personality shrinking into the shadows. She stopped drawing, stopped reading. The things that once brought her joy now felt meaningless. People noticed the change. "Stacy used to be so lively," Mrs. Adele commented one day. "She hardly talks anymore." "She's just adjusting," Pastor Michael said dismissively. "It's been a difficult year for her." No one pressed further. Leonard continued to play his role perfectly. He was the